Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. Here you will learn all things related to healing from divorce, mind, body, and spirit, so you can create a beautiful new life filled with happiness. I'm Rachel Ruby, author of Divorce to Bliss, divorce coach, speaker, and attorney, and I'm so glad you found me here. Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. This is episode 4, and we are going to be talking about letting go. This is a big part of healing, and you can't heal without doing it. So let's dive right in. Letting go. Let's talk about what that means. Many people think that when we say the term letting go, we mean to just cut people out of our lives. But really what letting go means is diving deep into yourself and looking at your relationships, looking at what you've been taught your whole life, possibly by family, by society, by religion and culture, and your belief system. And so it's a lot more than just looking at the people who you are hanging around with. But we have to dive deep inside to see if we are allowing our connection with people, with belief systems, with ideals and concepts that we've been taught, and with what society says we should be doing or how we should be acting in our lives on a daily basis. And when we look at all those things, we have to figure out which of those things are not serving us. So, for example, if you have been told all your life that divorce is wrong, it's bad, you're going to be shunned. God is not going to look favorably upon you. We don't do that in our family. It's not acceptable or anything like that. And you've grown up with this idea kind of implanted and programmed inside of your mind. And then here you are getting a divorce. It can be very, very difficult to get past that because in your mind, you're thinking, wow, I'm being bad. This is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be getting divorced. So it really, the diving part into the self is really to understand what is kind of framing our belief system, what is framing our thoughts, and why do we have these thoughts when we're thinking about the divorce, and how can we change those so that we start thinking in a more positive way? Because all of these thoughts, just like people who are negative and affect our own energy in a negative way, the thoughts and the beliefs and the things that have been taught to us our whole lives or for a great part of our lives, those things can all also affect us in a negative way. And when we're healing, it is so important that we stay as positive as we can. And of course, remembering that as human beings, we are always going to have challenges. We are always going to face difficulties, and that's normal and that's okay. We're always going to have feelings that are hard to manage. And again, that's normal and that's okay. But what we do want is to make sure that we are understanding the feelings that emanate from people who are negative, or thoughts that are negative, or concepts, ideas that are negative, and also patterns of behavior that we may have learned because we were told divorce is bad. So a pattern of behavior in relation to that might be that you stay in an unhappy marriage for a really long time because in your mind, you believe divorce is bad, divorce is wrong, and all of the negative things that will happen if you do get divorced. So again, I don't advocate divorce. That is not my message. But my message is that if you have tried to work on your marriage and you've come to that decision that divorce is the answer, you and your partner or one of you or however it may play out, that you really need to look at if you're staying in that relationship despite the fact that you know it's not making you happy and you've tried everything you can to see if it can be fixed and it cannot. You really need to look at where those feelings are coming from. And a lot of people are surprised when they discover that they're coming from things that have been told to them by family, by religion, religious leaders, by society in general. And it's great that we now are starting to look at divorce in a little bit of a different way, not so much the negative stigma that has always been attached to it, even though that still is there. But we're really coming into a time, I think, where we are starting to see that people understand that sometimes relationships cannot survive the test of time. And for whatever reasons those may be, we need to support those people who are getting out of those relationships rather than make them feel that their decision is wrong. So that's a little bit more of an explanation than I was planning to give, but I think it pretty much explains why sometimes leaving a relationship is hard, other than the fact that we're scared, which is a big part. Fear is always a big part of it. For now, let's suffice it to say that you are the only one who can determine whether you fail or succeed, whether you move on to create a new beautiful life for yourself or after your divorce, or whether you stay stuck in a relationship that is unhappy. And since you are the only one who can determine the answer to this, you are also the only one who has to figure out why you are stuck and why you are feeling this way. So we're going to dive into this deeply. I do want to say one more thing about fear, however, and that is fear is the ultimate paralyzer that prevents us from letting go. So fear and letting go are often connected. And when we are afraid, fear of change, fear of loneliness, fear of the unknown, fear of leaving the comfort zone, any of those things, or other types of fears that you may have when it comes to leaving a marriage, that can actually prevent you from letting go because you're not opening your mind and opening your heart to try and figure out where the fear is coming from. So these are tied real closely together. And when we look at letting go, it is actually something that is an immense help to us when we're facing a challenge in life, any challenge, looking at where our fear is coming from, where our beliefs stem from, and what is inside our minds and our hearts that is keeping us from doing what is best for ourselves, because that is the ultimate goal, to do what is best for ourselves and be happy. And we can't heal and be happy if we don't let go. So it comes full circle. And we're going to talk about different ways to let go. Number one is letting go of people and relationships. And this is typically what people think about when they hear the term letting go. They think about letting go of people. And we've all done that throughout the course of our lives. If you think back, maybe there was a friend who you had an argument with, or didn't see something that was positive for you, or didn't believe a choice you had made was the right choice, and you decided to let them go. And this can happen as a child. It can happen as an adult. It could really happen any time in our lives. And that is really the subconscious mind realizing that you cannot progress because you are letting yourself be held back by something someone is saying, which is giving us reinforcement for the beliefs we may have held for so many years from family, religion, culture, society about divorce. Likewise, the same thing with a person, where you have somebody who is telling you that your choice to leave the marriage, let's say, is wrong or bad, or that you shouldn't do that. This is their belief for you. This is what they think you should do. In order to become strong and in order to truly love ourselves, we need to let go of the idea that there is somebody else or a group of people who can dictate what we should do, what we can do, what we need to do. These terms can also be presented to us by those people. You shouldn't do that. Shouldn't get divorced. You should stay with your partner because you're never going to find a new partner and you're too old. You shouldn't go back out there at this age because you'll never find anybody. There are so many different things that can be said that are negative, and that should trigger you to think about the value that this person brings to you. Now, when we have a family member, let's say a mother or a father, a grandparent, or a brother or sister who is trying to tell us what to do in this situation, in this divorce situation, we have to realize that sometimes you can't just let go of a family member, right? Because they're your family and they're going to be around no matter what. And so what we can do in that situation, rather than let go of the person, is we can tell that person that, look, this is what I want. This is what I'm doing. This is what I feel and know that I need. And I am asking you to support me. If you cannot support me, I'm going to have to step back and take a break from speaking with you about this. I can still speak to you about other things, but I cannot speak with you about my divorce and my decisions if you are not going to support me, or if you are not going to let me make my own choices, because I know what's best for me. So it's setting boundaries. And that is a great way to deal with somebody who isn't serving you, who you really need to let go because it's affecting your energy levels, but someone who is maybe a part of you that is difficult to, it could even be a child, an older child, but somebody who is difficult to let go, actually really let go. I believe that we can let go of anyone, and we can use the words that I just mentioned to set the boundaries and say, I'm going to take a little break for a while I do my healing work, while I go through discovering who I am as a person outside of my marriage, so that I can create a new life for myself. And while I appreciate so much all of your advice and help, I need to do this myself. And so I am asking you to please let me figure it out on my own. If I want your advice, I will ask you, because I know that you will gladly give it to me. And that's a great way to let go. Now, for people who are maybe not so close in your life, not a child or not a parent, or maybe just a friend or a coworker who likes to give you a lot of advice and makes you feel negative when they give you that advice, the best thing to do in that situation is to tell the person, look, just like I said before, I am going through this very difficult trauma of divorce. It is affecting me in many ways. But most importantly, right now, what I need to do is figure out who I am outside of the marriage. And I need to decide how my new life is going to look on my own. While I appreciate you and your advice, right now, I can't listen to any outside advice because I need to listen to my heart. So I'm going to put our relationship on hold for a little bit until I'm in a better place. And then I will come back and tell you what I've decided. And I hope that you will be happy for me no matter what that is. So there's always a way that you can set the boundary, that you can let someone go. And I let a couple of friends go in my own journey from divorce. And it was hard, but I have to tell you honestly that once I did it, once I cut the cord, there were a few of them who not so much were telling me what to do, but were just so negative. And when I cut the cord, I felt almost like a weight lift from my shoulders. And I had a lot of fear about what was going to happen when I cut this cord, when I let this person go, because I know that these people really cared about me and I really cared about them. But I also knew in my heart that I wasn't going to be able to heal when I was surrounded by negativity. And I realized when I would speak to these people that my heart would race a little bit and that I would get all jumbled up and sometimes stressed out when I got off the phone. So what I tell my clients, and this is a really great way to discover if somebody is truly having a negative effect on you in a situation where, let's say, maybe it's a borderline and you can't figure out whether this person is really affecting you negatively or you're just imagining it, right? So a great way to do this is to just call up the person and start having a little conversation and try to keep it really light and happy. And feel how you're feeling while you're having this conversation. Are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling like your heart is racing, like your mind is racing? Are you feeling light and happy? If you're not, that's a sign. If you get off the phone with this person, even if you're talking to them and they start to go down a negative spiral or bring up negative things, because again, we all have times in our lives where we feel negative about something, and that's okay. That's normal. That's human. And if a friend wants to call you up and tell you about something bad that happened to them, that's okay too. That's why we're there for each other. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who are continuously negative, who continuously bring you down whenever you speak with them. This is what I mean. And when we are healing, when we're going through healing and we're trying to discover the new us, the new me, we need to be as positive as possible. We need to be as light as possible. There's so much in the world that can bring us down that we don't need something else, right? And especially from people that care about us. Our support network, the people who are supporting us while we're going through this, needs to be a positive one, needs to be filled with people who are going to understand that we're going through something difficult, know that we need to make big choices, know that we need to rebuild ourselves and our lives, our self-esteem, our confidence, whatever it is, and support whatever decisions we make, even if they don't think that the decisions are right, unless we ask them for their advice. And so those are the people you want to fill your life with. And I think a really great way to decide whether there is someone who is, or a group of people who are not supporting you in your healing journey, is to make a list of the people who you might think are possibly keeping you from feeling positive and keeping you from moving forward in this healing journey, because maybe they're giving advice that you feel in your heart isn't right, but maybe you think you should listen to them. So we want to write down the names of these people. And when we next have conversations with them, we want to write down what we were feeling while we were talking to them and how we felt when we ended the conversation. And if we're still not sure at that point whether this person is trying to direct us and tell us how we should feel, what we should be doing, then we have another conversation with them. And each time we speak with them, we write down these feelings. And some people, like I said, might just have had a bad day and they may be wanting your advice on something, and they may be just negative about what you're going through. And so we have to determine which people are the ones who are truly supporting our own decisions. So that's letting go of people. And it is very difficult to do, but I think, like me, that you will notice once you do so, a big difference in the way you feel. So let me know how that works out for you. The next type of letting go is letting go of beliefs and systems of belief. And a lot of times we are programmed throughout our lives, even as young as when we're children, certain ideas and concepts that are passed down from generation to generation. So they can be familial, they can be within a culture, a general culture, culture that doesn't, let's say, believe in divorce, right? And they can be beliefs that are societal. You know, we used to have a lot of commercials about with sex appeal and what was sexy. And we were really, as a woman, I know I was programmed to believe sexy was a thin woman with large breasts and a tiny waist and an hourglass figure, right? And throughout most of my childhood, these were the messages that were instilled in me, that this was an attractive woman. And I think now, in the last probably decade, maybe even a little less than that, we've seen a lot of big companies that have started to use plus size models as their models, and women with not perfect skin, and their faces might have scars or acne or freckles or whatever. And so to me, it's so refreshing that we're doing that, because I think that's going to send, and I hope that's going to send a message to the young women, the young girls, that there is no perfect. We are all our own beings, and we are all beautiful for who we are, right? So similarly, we are taught a lot of beliefs about marriage and about divorce and about relationships from when we're young. And we also tend to mirror what we saw in our own parents' relationships. So, for example, I know some people who came from broken homes where they either had parents who were constantly fighting, or one parent who was never around or didn't help in the parenting responsibilities. And they themselves had difficult times when they became parents. So some of them didn't. Some of them said, I'm going to reverse and do the opposite of what my parents did, so my children know how much I love them. But a lot of times people will mirror what they experienced, maybe not even wanting to do so. And so when we have beliefs that we are told and we are taught all our lives about divorce and about marriage and what it means to stay married and do this under God, before God, or because it's the right thing, or because we made a vow, a promise in front of our friends and our loved ones, we shouldn't leave that. And that puts people into a victim state because they tend to stay in a relationship when it's not serving them. And I know so many people who are in this position right now because they believe that it's the wrong thing to do to leave the marriage, whether it's morally, whether it's culturally, whether it's rules they were taught by their family. Maybe some people are afraid that their family will literally not speak to them anymore if they get divorced. And this comes a lot of times in cultural marriages that are arranged, and marriages that come under, cultural guidelines and beliefs. So whatever it is, we need to take a deep breath and realize that we are the only ones to guide ourselves through love and through making choices that support what we feel in our hearts and what we know is going to make us stronger, is going to make us happy, and is going to enable us to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. Because it is only then that we can go out and do good in the world and help others. We can't do that if we are not happy within. And so letting go of some of these beliefs and these concepts, ideals, is very hard. It can be very hard. But similarly, we want to explain to those people who maybe have taught us these things that we need to make these decisions for ourselves. We need to figure out who we are and what we want and how we're going to build our new lives. And we need to, this part of letting go isn't so much letting go of the person, where we're actually telling the person, we're not going to be speaking with you for a while because we need to just focus on ourselves. This is more of what has been ingrained in our head regarding divorce and marriage, and really telling ourselves that it is okay that we were raised this way. It is okay that we have grown up believing these things. But now, if it's not what we feel, and again, you may believe these things so strongly that you may need help letting go of them. And so you can go to a divorce healing coach like myself. You can go to traditional therapy, and there's an energy worker. There's many different people who can help you learn how to let go of these notions, these ideas. But if you focus on you and listen to what your inner voice is telling you, if your inner voice is telling you that those ideas are not serving you and that you know what you want, you just need to figure it out, then that's a start. And from there, you can figure out exactly what you feel is right. And again, you may need some guidance with that, but you will feel so much better when you start little by little to let go of these things. I gave an example of letting go of situations in relation to a family reunion. And here's what I discussed. If you are healing from divorce and working very hard to figure out what your life is going to look like and how you are going to be moving forward, and you are invited to a family reunion, and you have been told since you were a child how important marriage is, how sacred it is, how we commit for life and we don't get divorced because that is quitting, that is a failure, whatever you've been told in that regard. And all of a sudden, here you are in the throes of a divorce and you're invited to a family reunion. And you are concerned because, rightly so, you know that when you go, you're going to get a lot of advice and you're going to get a lot of people telling you what they've told you all your life, which is what you're doing isn't right, right? So what I suggest in a situation like this is that you call up your parents or the people who are throwing the reunion and you say to them, I am not going to be there this time. I am healing right now from my divorce and working really hard to build up my happiness again and create my new life. And as much as I appreciate everybody wanting to give me advice, right now I just need to listen to my own voice and figure out what I want and who I am outside of the marriage. So I won't be coming, and please send everyone my love, and I hope to be there next time. And it's that simple. That's going to let you let go of the tough situation, which will put you in probably a compromised position and make you feel down or negative or frustrated or even angry, hurt, or depressed. The next part of letting go is letting go of patterns of behavior. And again, these patterns of behavior come from the beliefs, the belief systems that I just discussed. They come from what was taught to us either as children or all our lives. And they often lead to negative feelings about divorce. Sometimes we feel so down or depressed or angry from a divorce that we jump into negative patterns of behavior like drinking, overeating, filling up on sugar, staying home and not going out of the house, and even drug use. And these patterns of behavior are not only going to bring us down further and not help us heal, but of course they can be dangerous. And there are people who die from all of these things. So we want to be very careful in recognizing any patterns of behavior that we may have and letting them go and staying on track with taking care of ourselves, mind, body, and spirit, so that we can move forward in our healing process. So the synopsis of all of this is that learning to let go is very difficult, but it can be done. I did it. It takes a lot of work. You do have to put in the time and you do have to dive into yourself to figure out what things are making you hold back from living your best life. That is when we will start healing. So if you need some help, again, you can reach out to various types of people, coaches, therapists, energy workers, to figure out what it is that you are allowing to hold you back and to realize that you can live an incredibly wonderful, beautiful life. And it all starts with the healing and it all starts with looking inside you. And don't be afraid to do this, because I promise you 100% that if you take the time to heal, you are going to be so happy when you get to the end of the tunnel and come out into this bright, beautiful light, and you can make your life so full and meaningful. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.